welcome to the Northwest Treatment Vidcast.
Hello, everybody, and how is everyone doing today?
We hope you guys are doing well on this, what for us is an August video recording day.
It's kind of crazy. It's in August. We're in August already, isn't it?
Oof, it is a little nuts. We wanted to actually talk to you guys a little bit about the court-ordered treatment we do, specifically with diversions, DUI diversions and DUI convictions. A lot of times there's some different questions that come up in those two different categories.
Right, and so one of them, like Jessica was saying, one of them is a diversion versus a conviction, and the way we thought about saying it was going to be, I was going to talk about diversions, and then Jessica would talk about the convictions.
Yeah, and again, this is based in Oregon. There are definitely different options for different states or, of course, different countries. And so the terms we're going to be using are the ones that are used based in Oregon.
So in Oregon, you get pulled over, you are intoxicated, whether that is through marijuana, alcohol, drugs, any other drugs like heroin, meth, and then things that people don't think about, but like gabapentin, which is a prescription drug, or things like oxy, which can also be prescription drugs,
right?
Can also
get you,
or sleeping. So I never like Lunesta is a good one.
Yeah.
Those are all things that can get you DUIs if you're deemed intoxicated on the side of the road. And in Oregon, we don't do roadside breathalyzers, and so what we do instead is a field sobriety test. And once the officer has determined that you're intoxicated, that's really where it is, and then they take your BAC when you go back to the station usually.
Right. They have different locations with devices that are checked regularly to make sure they're all within the common standards to then determine that blood alcohol content, BAC, or if it's not alcohol or something that's determinable that way, then they'll do maybe a blood test or something else.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's say you get a DUI for just drinking, so you got yourself a DUI, now what happens? Well, the next thing that happens is your court date is set automatically, which is 30 days out from your day you got pulled over. And you go to court and you stand in front of the judge, and the judge says you're here for a DUI. You say yes, and then you kind of plead guilty. But it's this really weird plead guilty because it's not a suspended sentence and it's not anything else. So it just becomes this world of diversion, and welcome to the world of diversion at that point. And what happens with it is that once you've gone through court, you end up going to something called an ADIS, which is Alcohol Drug Evaluation Services. And at your ADIS, they're going to do an assessment for you, and then they're going to refer you out to one of us, which are the treatment providers, to do your DUI services, and that entails something different.
Right.
So ADISs cannot recommend where you can go to treatment. They can only
require it.
Not require it, but they can give you the lovely packet that the state has compiled with all of us in there, and in there will tell you the DUI state certified programs, which ours is in there.
Right.
So then you call us and you go, hey, I got a DUI, I don't know what to do next. So then what happens for us is we'll go ahead and bring you in, we'll do your assessment, we'll do your treatment, you'll do urine analysis while you're here to maintain your sobriety. And then what happens with us at that point is that we close you out after you're done with us, and then we send back a letter confirming that you've completed all your DUI requirements for treatment, and then that gets sent back over to your ADIS. So at this point, if you're keeping track, you need to do a treatment option or education, depending on which one comes up. You need to do your ADIS, you need to go to court, you need to do something called the Victims Impact Panel.
Yep.
Which is a requirement of all the DUIs, where you get to listen to people tell you about how DUIs have gone horribly wrong for them.
Yeah.
It's not a very fun day, and people tend to walk away from it feeling super, super tiny.
However, it's one of the ones people talk about the most as something they can remember in the future, which is important.
It is. It absolutely is. And I think it is one of those vital things. And what I do hear actually is that they wish they had sat through it when they were teenagers.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, a lot of times it's put on by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And it's basically where you listen to victims of DUIs of some kind. And it's obviously very impactful. It's very emotional. And it is a requirement for Oregon-based DUIs. And a lot of the providers like Léa and I, we can also go, and I've made a point in the past to go a couple of different times just to see what's being put on, what's going out there.
Yeah. And I think it's a good thing for people to go to, just to understand. Like, I plan on taking my kids to it when they get their licenses.
Right. And if you are required, last I checked, you are allowed to bring one person as a guest with you. And I do know some clients who will finish up with us and then actually go back to it with other either partners or their kids or something else.
And then after you're done doing those parts of it, you have to do your entire year. So your year starts from the day you got convicted or got your diversion. And it will lapse 365 days. So if you, let's say it starts on the 12th of November of whatever year, it will end on the 10th of November of the following year.
Right.
And then the other part of it is also, if you are going to drive after you get your DUI, you need to make sure that you get a breathalyzer in your car. And that is a state program. It's a program that is certified by the state to be able to have breathalyzers in car, which I believe they just updated that about a year ago, I want to say, Jessica, and they have it up on their website. The state has it up on their website.
Yeah, there is a really great website that was updated recently through the state, and we'll link it below. Just about DUIs in general, but it also has a good information on the interlock devices that are required. And one of the biggest things I have people question, whether it's a diversion or conviction, is if they don't do that now while connected to court, they get all done with court, will they have to do it ever in the future? And the answer is yes. No matter if you do it now with court or you do it 10 years from now, it does not matter. In the state of Oregon, your license is not cleared until you do that time frame with that device in the car.
Exactly. So I always like to remind clients that you're working with 3 different systems. You're working with the court system, you're working with us, and then you're also working with the DMV. And at any point, things can change up with them. And unfortunately, we've been through some of those iterations where things do change in the middle of a client's time with us, which can definitely wreak havoc.
Yeah, which is what it's part of our job, is to make sure we're the most up to date on the new rules or laws to help you guys through this. Much like with COVID, because there are some court, shufflings that are happening with clients. So we're here to help everybody through that.
Exactly. And so, Jessica, can you tell us about convictions?
So convictions is very similar to a diversion in a lot of ways. You still go to court. You still basically plead guilty to that DUI. You will then have to also have that ATIS referral and get some treatment. Yep. Oftentimes the amount of treatment you get might be a little longer than if it was a first-time DUI or a diversion. And then there is one of the bigger things is that it is a 2-year time frame instead of that 1-year time frame. Mm-hmm. There's also the additional thing where you are connected to your parole officer. You basically have a monthly fee that goes towards the court. I believe last I checked in Clackamas, it was like $35 or $40 a month. You do need to check in regularly with your PO just about how's it going, are you keeping your job, is treatment doing well. If you ever want to leave the state, you have to talk to your PO in advance and get approval. Similarly, we always recommend you talk to your ATIS as well, because they're the ones who are in charge of tracking you down if something goes awry, and that's really important. And then basically the idea is to get everything done in time in that 2-year time frame, or again for diversion, that 1-year time frame. And then you are allowed to have a one-time extension if needed in diversion for that 6 months extension that you have to go to court for. And I believe there is an extension you can also get for convictions. It just depends on the time frame for that. And sometimes it's not even us or you as the client that's requesting it. It might be the PO who thinks you need a bit more time on something. Or, if there was having to move locations or transfer counties, you'll often have to transfer your PO. And so a lot of that is just them based on being helpful and making sure everything gets done. A lot of times people are confused as to when they get a diversion or a conviction. You can, for your very first DUI, not be eligible for a diversion, and it's an automatic conviction.
Right.
The main reasons for that is if someone's injured or there's a lot of property damage, or if you had a professional commercial driver's license, then it is an automatic conviction. Other than that, that's kind of the main points to be hit between the diversion and conviction.
Well, there is one more
levels.
thing. The advantage to getting obviously a diversion over a conviction, which is theoretically the diversion is like a one-time deal, and for the most part it's going to be a one-time deal. Like most people get a diversion and don't get another conviction.
Right.
Usually. is that if you get a diversion and you complete everything within your year, you get to have it kind of like not expunged from your record because it doesn't go away, but it gets a little bit sealed up so that when you go apply for jobs like 3 years down the road, they don't see that when they do your background check, which is a huge benefit for insurances, also for driving.
Right. After 3 years, basically, it disappears from the driving record, not necessarily from your criminal record, but you have to have a lot more justifiable reasons to get into a criminal record, which is wonderful for people who are looking to, rent or employee-based background searches. So that can be very helpful. And then also with a diversion, if you are completely successful and everything's great, and then it happens years down the line, you get another DUI, if it is after 15 years, you might be eligible for that diversion again. If it happens within 15 years, that is no longer eligible for a diversion. It is a conviction.
Which is actually a lot of times where I see that happen is at that 10-year mark, 10 or 12-year mark. I will see a lot of convictions come in, and the prior, like the last time they had gotten a DUI would have been about 10 or 12 years ago.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. That sucks.
Yeah. Well, if any of you guys have any questions about it or need any clarification, feel free to leave a comment below. If you yourself or someone you know is struggling with a DUI, feel free to reach out if you would like to ask about classes and treatment.
And with that, we wish you to be well. Have a good day.
Bye, guys.